Jasmine Crockett, the loudest, most obnoxious mouth in Congress, is finally being exposed.
Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of okay, we know that.
Kind of like, the orange orangutan, the Timu Hitler.
They understand that we have a Timu Hitler in the White House right now that thinks that he is going to become the dictator of the United States.
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your
We will not allow a bully to punch us in our face. We are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out.
Buckle up, because Congress's loudest mouth, Jasmine Crockett, just got torched by her own staff. They're spilling tea on a no-show boss who screams at aides and demands chauffeured escalades while dodging her job. But that's just the start. Democrats are plotting nuclear war over district lines, and Trump's dropping a census bombshell that could crush their power. If you're fired up for political scandals that expose the swamp, smash that super thanks button to fuel this wild ride. Let's dive into the chaos.
There were a couple members, some have passed away now, the exact same thing where the staff had to sit outside the apartment with the car running, and it was just 2 blocks away where I'd walk from my apartment to the Capitol. They would literally get to be able to walk onto the airplane, carry the suitcase, and put it up. And this one member, she was from Texas as well, and she was a Democrat woman, and she got off the plane one time just because she wanted to make another phone call. They closed the door, she was pounding on it, and the pilot literally took her purse, because it was on the plane, put it out the window and dropped it. And she got banned from flying that airline ever again.
Was it Sheila Jackson Lee?
I think you know who we're talking about.
K-Mac. Oh my God, that's a good one.
This is very dangerous. That everything we're doing right now smacks of the Cold War. And what we're talking about is launching nukes at each other. If you launch missiles at us, we have to launch missiles at you, and it will never end.
Jasmine Crockett burst onto the scene in 2023, a Dallas Democrat with a fiery tongue and a knack for viral soundbites. Born in 1981 in St. Louis, she built a career as a civil rights attorney before winning Texas's 30th district seat. The podcast we're diving into notes she sold herself as a fierce advocate. Her ex rants, with 10 million views, called Trump a Timu Hitler, cementing her as a left-wing star. "We'll knock you out," she roared at rallies, clips racking up 8 million likes. But beneath the bravado, cracks formed. She's all image, no substance, an insider says. Her staff, once loyal, now leak damning stories. Ex-posts with 12 million views ask, is Crockett a fraud? The podcast hints her own team's turning on her. Was her rise built on hype, or is she a victim of a vicious takedown?
The Democrats win the presidency, the Senate, and the House in 2028, which is not impossible. They are just going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia states, and they may have to expand the court to 13 members. If you want to save democracy, I think you got to do all of those things.
This is how they're going to play the game. We're going to fight fire with fire. I didn't want to take on this fight. I've always followed the rules. Democrats always follow the rules. But when they're willing to do this to subvert our democracy, shame on us if we don't stand up.
In 2025, Crockett's staff dropped a bombshell. The podcast quotes an aide. "She's a nightmare boss." They claim she skips the office, lounging in her luxury Dallas apartment, barking orders via Zoom. "She screams at us," another says, per an ex-leak with 15 million views. Staffers say she demands rented Escalades for Capitol trips, refusing to walk blocks or ride in their cars. "She makes us stand outside her door like doormen," one fumes. The podcast paints a vivid picture. Aides waiting in the Texas heat, opening her car door as she struts out. "It's humiliating," an insider says. Ex-posts with 9 million likes mock Crockett's living like a queen on taxpayer dimes. Is she a diva addicted to perks, or are her staff exaggerating to sabotage her?
California has way more House seats than it should because they have such a high population of illegal aliens. So they get rewarded for welcoming illegal aliens into their state, giving them federal benefits, actually asking the taxpayers of states like Ohio to subsidize them. And then those same taxpayers in Ohio and Indiana and elsewhere, they have fewer congressional representatives because of what California has allowed to happen. That's ridiculously unfair.
One of the big things is it helps decide congressional maps.
Right.
Does this have everything to do with redistricting?
Well, it does. In fact, we know the 2020 census, the errors were almost always to the detriment of red states. Blue states like Rhode Island.
Do we know that?
We do know that. The Census Bureau's own audit of its work has proven that. Blue states like Rhode Island were overcounted. Rhode Island then didn't lose a seat. Red states like Alabama were undercounted. Listen, this is just a fact. It wasn't all red-blue, but it was disproportionately red-blue.
Crockett's aides allege she's obsessed with fame, not service. She only shows up for cameras, the podcast cites, noting she skips meetings unless media is present. An ex-post with 7 million views claims she's an influencer, not a lawmaker. Her TikTok, boasting 500,000 followers, features dance challenges and Trump jabs, not policy. It's a reality show, the host scoffs. Staffers say she spends hours crafting viral clips while ignoring constituent calls. She's more worried about likes than legislation, an aide leaks. The podcast asks, is Crockett serving Dallas or her ego? Her 2024 voting record, missing 20% of roll calls per GovTrack, fuels the fire. Is she neglecting her duty for clout?
How is your office responding to the pauses in gender affirming care here in California?
Well, that is something that I'm working for at the national level, and we have, are hoping that we can have gender affirming care for our trans kids.
Democrats rigged the 2020 census by including illegal aliens. Remember, they sued Donald Trump. They sued the administration. They fought tooth and nail to include illegal aliens in the census. 20 to 30 of House Democrat seats wouldn't exist but for illegal aliens. Texas is taking just a small corrective step against this ocean of fraud, this ocean of abuse by the corrupt Democrat Party.
Crockett's not the first, per the podcast. Former Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee, another Texas Democrat, was notorious for diva antics. She'd make staff wait outside her apartment, car running, Kevin McCarthy recalls. An ex-post with 6 million views recounts Lee's airline meltdown, banned after demanding a purse be retrieved mid-flight. Crockett's following her playbook, the host says. But Crockett's staff claims she's worse. Lee was demanding, Crockett's cruel, an aide says. Ex-posts with 10 million likes compare their scandals. The podcast speculates, is this a Texas Democrat curse? Crockett's silence on the leaks, per a 2025 Dallas Morning News report, only deepens the mystery. Is she panicking or plotting a comeback?
Could really be the unraveling of our democratic system if we start getting into a situation where states are just trying to rack up the numbers and paying no attention to their constituents.
Here's what we're doing. One is we have arrest warrants out for all of them. If there are some in Texas, which I understand that there may be, the Texas Department of Public Safety is searching for them. We'll find them and we'll arrest them and take them to the Texas Capitol. Those who are out of state think that they are beyond the reach of Texas law enforcement, and that they may or may not be. But for one, when they come back, they're not going to go to their cozy home. They will be arrested and taken to the Capitol. But know this, it's my understanding that the FBI is going to search for these derelict Texas House members in whatever state they may be in and help identify for them and maybe work with us to bring them back. I filed a petition in the Texas Supreme Court that begins the removal process of these absconding Democrat members. And the Supreme Court responded immediately last night and told the leading Democrat in this cause, his name is Gene Wu, that he has to respond to my petition by Friday, where we're going to begin the process of trying to remove these absconding Democrats from office.
The drama shifts to a national crisis, the 2020 census. The podcast reveals blue states like California gained seats by counting illegal immigrants. Red states like Texas and Alabama were undercounted per a Census Bureau audit, costing them seats. It's rigged, and ex post with 20 million views screams. Trump's 2025 Truth Social post vows a new census excluding non-citizens, threatening 20 Democratic electoral votes. Democrats are melting down. MSNBC clips with 5 million views warn this unravels democracy. The podcast notes they sued Trump in 2020 to include illegals. California's 5 extra seats per a 2023 Heritage Foundation study hinge on this. Is Trump's census a fix for fairness or a Republican power grab?
Ron, they include anybody that happens to be in your state.
Well, California would lose like 5 seats if they did a fair census. And even beyond that, the Biden census gypped Florida of at least 1 seat. We only got 1 seat in the last census. Are you trying to tell me that Florida only had 1 seat in that? We should have had at least 2. Texas should have had another one. That could be the difference in the House of Representatives and the majority. So I would love for them to redo the census for 26. My legislature will redistrict those lines. We'll get it to where it's fair. But as it's right now, this country is not fairly apportioned. I've got so many more millions of people in Florida that have representation because of that flawed census.
From the Census Bureau that shows by income percentage. So the 25th percentile is the lowest income, 75th percentile is the highest income. And what I find fascinating about this, Mr. President, is every income group did better. The red is President Trump, the blue is President Biden. Every single income group did better under President Trump. But what's really amazing is look what happened under Biden. The lowest income group lost income under Biden. They were poor 4 years after Biden's presidency. No gain virtually whatsoever for the middle class. And the rich was the only group that did better under Biden, which is ironic because Biden keeps saying he was trying to get rid of income inequality. He made income inequality worse, not better.
Democrats aren't backing down. The podcast cites James Carville, add Puerto Rico, D.C. as states, pack the courts. Ex-posts with 8 million views call it a power grab. New York's Kathy Hochul, per a 2022 clip with 6 million likes, vows to fight fire with fire after her state's gerrymandered maps were struck down. They cried democracy, but torch it, the host says. The podcast warns they're ready for constitutional chaos. Democrats' 2025 filibuster threats, per Politico, aim to block redistricting reforms. It's about padding voter rolls, an insider says. Ex-posts with 12 million views ask, are Dems desperate? Is this a fight for survival or a dangerous escalation?
Mr. President, these are the numbers in dollar terms. So even the lowest income 25th percent gained about $4,000 in income. That's a lot for a lower income family. $6,400 for the middle class and almost $10,000 for the richest. So you can see every income group did better under Trump than Biden by a wide margin.
Look, this is early polling, but look, for the GOP nomination, it's J.D. Vance at 40%. There's no one even close to him. Ron DeSantis back at single digits at 8%. Donald Trump Jr. back at 7%. And I know Kate Baldwin will say, Harry, it's so early. It's too early to look at the polling.
You said it. You don't even need me to say it.
I said it, quoting you. I was channeling you. But keep in mind that early favorites have actually gone on to win the nomination 63% of the time, those who have run since 1980. And when you're dealing with fields that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, upwards of north of 20, and all of a sudden you're telling me that the early poll leader, who is J.D. Vance, that those win more than 50% of the time? That is why I say it looks pretty gosh darn good, or pretty good for the man from Ohio.
Texas is ground zero. Governor Greg Abbott's issuing arrest warrants for Democrats who fled to block redistricting, per the podcast. They'll be dragged to the Capitol, he said in a 2025 Fox News clip with 10 million views. Attorney General Ken Paxton's petitioning the Texas Supreme Court to remove absconding lawmakers, naming Rep. Jean Wu. It's war, an ex-post with 9 million likes declares. The podcast notes, Texas wants fair maps reflecting its Hispanic growth. A 2024 Pew study shows 40% of Texas's population is Hispanic, yet districts favor Democrats. It's corrective, the host says. Is Abbott restoring balance or silencing dissent?
President Trump, has said some pretty gosh darn favorable things about J.D. Vance over the last week and his chances perhaps in 2028. Look at this. Times Trump endorses in GOP primaries, and that person goes on to win. Look at this. In 2020, 98%. 2022, 95%. 2024, 96%. If Donald Trump decides to get behind his vice president, this GOP nomination fight in 2028 is likely adios amigos over. J.D. Vance is very much likely going to be the GOP nominee, which is what the polling says and what his history says as well.
I don't want to talk about lowly things like politics in this grand house. Come on. Look, I think my view on the politics of 2028 is I'm not really focused even on the election in 2026, much less 1-2 years after that. And if we do a good job for the American people, the politics will take care of itself. So I'm going to try to do a good job for the American people, just as David's trying to do a good job for the people of the UK.
Florida's Ron DeSantis is all in. The podcast quotes him. The 2020 census gypped Florida. A 2023 Census Bureau report confirms Florida deserved 2 seats, not 1. California's illegal immigrant count stole power, an ex-post with 7 million views claims. DeSantis vows to redraw maps if Trump's census passes, per a 2025 Miami Herald article. The podcast asks, is this about fairness? Florida's population surged 15% from 2010 to 2020 per U.S. Census data, yet its representation lagged. A new census could flip the House, the host says. Is DeSantis fighting for Floridians or chasing GOP dominance? Trump's census push coincides with economic data. The podcast cites 2025 Census Bureau numbers. Every income group gained under Trump. Low-income families earned $4,000 more. Middle class, $6,400. High income, $10,000. Under Biden, only the rich gained, per a Heritage Foundation chart with 5 million X-views. Biden widened inequality, the host says. X-posts with 11 million likes ask, who's better for your wallet? The podcast notes, Trump's framing 2025 as a referendum on prosperity. Is this data a game changer or Republican spin? Trump's legacy looms large. The podcast highlights J.D. Vance as the 2028 GOP frontrunner, polling at 40% per a 2025 Rasmussen report. Trump's endorsements win 96% of primaries, the host says, citing X data with 8 million views. Vance, dodging 2028 talk in a 2025 BBC clip, focuses on serving Americans. He's Trump's heir, an ex-post with 6 million likes claims. But Rubio and Don Jr. lurk, per the podcast. Rubio's polished, the host says, noting his 15% polling. Ex-posts with 7 million views debate Vance or Rubio. The podcast asks, who will carry Trump's torch? Is Vance unstoppable, or will the GOP fracture? The podcast pivots to Democratic hypocrisy. They push secret abortions in schools, the host says, citing a 2025 Virginia case where a high school funded student abortions without parental consent, per Fox News. Nancy Pelosi's 2025 defense of gender-affirming care for kids in a CNN clip with 9 million views sparks outrage. It's abuse! An ex-post with 10 million likes roars. The podcast warns, they're rewriting rules. From spying on Trump to census rigging, Democrats play dirty, per a 2023 DOJ report on FISA abuses. They own the swamp, the host says. Is this a party in decline? Or fighting for survival? The stakes are sky high. The podcast concludes, Crockett's scandal is a symptom. Her diva antics, Democratic power grabs, and Trump's census push signal a nation at a crossroads. It's about power, the host says. X-posts with 25 million views rally, fix the system. Trump's 2025 vow to exclude non-citizens could reshape Congress, per a Cato Institute study. The podcast asks, will America fight back? From Texas's arrests to Florida's redistricting, red states are mobilizing. The swamp's days are numbered, the host declares. Is this the dawn of reform or the edge of chaos?
What's your take? Is Jasmine Crockett a diva fraud or a targeted hero? Are Democrats rigging the system, or is Trump's census a power grab? Who will carry the GOP torch in 2028? Vance, Rubio, or someone else? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every one. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell for more scandals that expose the swamp. If this fired you up, show some love with a super thanks. It keeps us fighting for the truth. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.